Hey guys, it's been a long time since I put out any new content. I'm sorry. It's been way too long, but I've been busy with schoolwork, homework, and failing history class, unfortunately. But I'm back and here for a different kind of video. So today I'm here to talk about the longest range hit during World War II. And surprisingly enough, the honor doesn't go to a US warship. It actually goes to a Japanese battleship, the HIJMS Yamato. So before you yell at me for this outrageous claim, I'll prove it to you. Now, naturally, this hit occurred during the Battle of Samar in 1944, and it was scored against the U.S. light carrier White Plains. Now, the action report for USS White Plains claimed that she was not hit during the battle. Now, this is true. Kind of. You see, the hit wasn't really a hit, as in, the shell didn't make any contact with the actual target. You see, modern torpedoes and naval mines don't make contact with the target either. They explode underneath the ship, they burn the ship up and bring it crashing down, and they snap the keel. And since the keel is pretty much the backbone of the ship, you break the keel, you break the ship, essentially. Plus, most anti-aircraft artillery projectiles don't hit the plane either. They explode near the plane, and they use the debris and the explosions from the shell to take down the plane. So you see, the projectile doesn't have to make actual contact with the target to be a hit. So the question is, what differentiates a hit from a near miss or a straddle? A near miss or straddle might slash the crew with water, might kill a few or injure a few anti-aircraft gunners with some debris or shrapnel, but damage to the ship will be mostly superficial. Meanwhile, a hit, even if it doesn't make contact with the ship, will inflict significant damage and tangible damage to the ship. The shell that hit USS White Plains did exactly that. It took out power for about 8 minutes, took out radar for about 2 minutes, it threw the personnel in the ship around a bunch of times, and most importantly, some steering control was lost for a couple of minutes. Now, it was lucky that Yamato switched fire to a different target because there were about 5 more carriers and 7 more escort vessels around White Plains. But if White Plains had been by itself, then fire would have been kept falling on White Plains and it would have been sunk. Now, White Plains wasn't sunk because there were other targets in the area. However, if it had been a one-on-one battle between, say, 2 battleships, that kind of damage would have been decisive. So now that's one half of the claim solved, that it was a hit. Second half is to prove that it was Yamato that fired that salvo and not any other battleship. And for this, we go back to White Plains' action report. In it, it claims that the first salvo that fired at it was accompanied by a 3-round medium caliber salvo that splashed around 4,000 yards astern of the ship. Now this was Yamato's secondary battery. Now those 3 rounds fired by that secondary battery weren't meant to hit the ship. They were more symbolic or ceremonial rounds that were fired because Yamato was the flagship of the center force, and therefore she was to fire all her guns simultaneously and first. Now the second major piece of evidence is that it was a 6-round major caliber salvo. It's claimed so in White Plains' action report. Now, no other ship in the Japanese center force could have fired that salvo. I'll explain why. There were, maybe 2-3 ships in the entire center force capable of firing a 6-round salvo from only her forward guns. Now, this is crucial because all the ships in the center force were steaming straight ahead at the US Taffy 3. And the other 2 or 3 ships that were capable of firing a 6-round forward-only salvo were not capable of firing major caliber shells. They were Mogami-class heavy cruisers. And as you can see right here, Yamato was the only ship capable of firing a 6-round major caliber salvo and a 3-round secondary battery salvo using only her forward guns. And so, it was clear that Yamato was the one firing that salvo. There were 3 other battleships in the Japanese center force that could fire major caliber shells. They were Nagato, Kongo, and Haruna. Now, all 3 of them had only 4 guns in their forward battery, which means that they couldn't have fired a 6-round major caliber salvo with only their forward guns. Admiral Kurita was the commanding officer for Yamato during the Battle of Samar, and he was captured by US authorities after the end of the war, and he was interrogated. And in his interrogation, he was asked about the Battle of Samar, and he stated that the Yamato's center force spotted the US Taffy 3 at a range of around 35,000 meters. there was some maneuvering to get out of the anti-aircraft ring formation they were in, and firing was commenced at 33 to 32,000 meters. Now, choosing the midpoint and assuming the open fire at 32,500 meters, the hits scored by Yamato was her second or third salvo, and so the range was around 32,000 meters. And lastly, was this really the longest range naval hit of World War II? The answer is yes. The second longest range hit was by, I believe, the German battleship Starnhorst against a British battleship at a range of around 26,000 yards, which in meters is around 24,000 meters, which is around 2/3 that of the range at which Yamato hit USS White Plains. And don't forget, the weather during the Battle of Samar wasn't exactly the best weather. There were squalls everywhere, it was like early morning, it was kind of hazy. The point is, it wasn't ideal conditions for an optic-based fire control system, and yet Yamato still scored a hit at 32,000 meters. And hopefully this video, along with my next video, which will be Yamato vs. Iowa Part 2, will help counteract the common misconception that Yamato's gunnery was very poor. So thanks for watching. I'll try to put out more videos more consistently from now on, but until then, I will see you guys later.